Now we're going to turn our attention to something entirely different. We're going to talk about special economic zones because you will be aware they play a really crucial role in driving economic growth and attracting global investment. They do that, of course, by offering maybe tax incentives, a favourable business environment, and streamlined regulations. So in this session, I want to look at their ongoing role and look at how we might develop these zones for a digital future. And so please welcome my panelists to the stage. Justus Kariuki, who's from TRIFIC, the Special Economic Zone. Mohamed Haseeb, who's from the Khaimah Economic Zone. Nikhil Gandhi, Executive Director and Chief Business Officer at RAKEZ IIP. And Anders Kron, who's the Vice President of Business Development at DP World. Please, gents, take a seat. Nice to see you all.
Your tweets. I have WhatsApp.
We're missing one.
Yeah, congratulations.
Please, anyway, take a seat.
All right. See you.
I think we might just be waiting. There we go. Nice to see you. Welcome. Gents, you have a hard act to follow, but we've got plenty to talk about. And Justus, you're next to me. I want to start with you if I can. Talk to me about what makes a special economic zone successful. What are the ingredients?
Thank you very much, and it's an honor being here. I think at the forefront of the establishment of special economic zones is the objective to drive and attract investments into their respective jurisdictions. And this is an effort that countries are making to try and attract capital. And this is something we see a lot, especially in Africa and Kenya, where I come from. And at the heart of a successful special economic zone are three drivers, which I will quickly spell out. One of them is the need to curate a predictable investment environment for investors wishing to bring their investments into any particular zone. And this is informed by historical issues of the investment climate keeping changing right, left, and center, and particularly when new regimes come to power. And for any country investing heavily in the establishment of special economic zones, there is the need, therefore, to ensure that the investment environment, the investment climate is as predictable as possible, so that what an investor uses as a basis to bring their investment does not change tomorrow because there's been an election and there's a new guy in power who then says, look, I don't want to follow what was happening in the last regime. I'm coming with my new policies and all that. Then the second issue is the issue of lowering the cost of doing business. Quite a number of times we don't tell the whole story. So I come to India, I tell somebody, come, bring a subsidiary of your company to Kenya, bring the whole of your company to Kenya, and then 1 year down the line, they realize the taxman is heavy on their production, on their inputs, on their operations, through taxes that keep flying in, right, left, and center. And we see this manifested by way of value-added taxes that come in, withholding taxes that get thrown in. We have heavy import duties on input that you're bringing in for your business. And for a successful special economic zone, there has to be a deliberate effort to remove anything that attacks the cost of doing business, so that when you come on board with your investment, you are sure that the costs that come with making money are not as high as they would have been. Then thirdly is the question of the protection of profits. Sometimes we allow you to make all the money you want, and then we come in with very heavy corporation taxes. We come in with very heavy withholding taxes when you want to repatriate your money back to your motherland, either by way of repatriated dividends. In fact, for a long time, within the special economic zone, the repatriation tax for your dividends was as high as 20%, sometimes 15%. And I know this has happened in Kenya, where we have now scrapped all repatriation taxes for your money, whether you are taking your money out in terms of payment to royalties, payment of dividends, payment of interest rate, tax on interest rates, and all that. We scrap that to ensure that when you take your money back to your motherland, your money is intact. You have a question on that?
No, I want to bring in Mohamed at this point because that's really clear on terms of what are the driving forces, so stability and clarity around the financial incentive. So, Mohamed, let me spin it the other way because so many economic zones are growing and doing really well. Some don't live up to the hype though, and I suppose what defines those that aren't doing well? Is it simply the opposite of that? So it's instability and inconsistency.
So first of all, namaskar. Once again, thank you very much for the Indian Global Forum. So in the UAE, if you see total 40 plus free zone and economic zones are there. And I differentiate the success is like a RISE M. RISE R is like a robust infrastructure. And I is interconnected with your local and global economy. And the third is as a strategic location and connectivity. And I will leave the E and I will talk about M is how you can access domestic and international market. Today in a UAE, you see almost all the economic zones have this thing. But what is the differentiator is like ease of doing business and the speed of doing business.
Yeah.
I will give an example to you, like the manufacturing company set up in a Ras Al Khaimah. Previously, it takes 6 months time, and we managed to anchor and establish them within 6 weeks. And this is the differentiator. Today, the business will not wait for you. If you are not able to cope up the things as a demand of your investors and ecosystem, you will out of the market.
Anders, talk to me about Bharat Mart. Maybe explain it, first of all, about what it is for those who aren't aware and its role in doing exactly that, about giving that, international organizations a place to call home, to trade across borders.
Yes, I think with India Global Forum as well, we see a lot of opportunities in the trade and how we can grow the trade between UAE and India. And as part of the target with the SEEP of reaching $100 billion trade, we have developed a Bharat Mart in Jebel Ali Free Zone, which is again a way of facilitating additional investment and trade via Dubai and Jebel Ali from India or also into African markets. So it's really one of those initiatives to see how we can grow trade further.
What makes it different from a regular free zone model? What is it about Bharat Mart?
It's a specific infrastructure, but also the location in Jebel Ali where you have the connectivity not only in the regional markets, but into all of the African markets as well. And the very competitive freight rates that we can offer exporters and support Indian exporters to use Dubai as a hub to reach those global markets, as we have heard in the previous sessions as well. So it's really how we can leverage that with a dedicated facility in the free zone with certain incentives as well, then for them to make trade easier.
Nikhil, there's a danger, isn't there? You sort of drive through the gates of a free zone and you feel like you're in an entirely different country sometimes. Different rules and regulations apply within those gates. How do you do that? How do you support business, encourage business with those favourable terms, whilst also making sure you're protecting what's there? So be that the society, the environment, how do you get that right?
Right. So firstly, thank you for having me. Just to set context, the geographies that we operate in as a company is completely in Africa. We are now in about 16 odd locations. And, just to draw back to where Africa is in its industrialization journey is just about scratching the surface, right? We are one of the pioneers to get into set footprint to build SEZs. And we are learning from all the mistakes that industrialization has done in the past. So ESG as a compliance becomes a very important key element for us to drive. But we are looking at ESG as an enabler more than a deterrent. So let me give you a perspective on the environment per se. So before we build the zone, we go through a massive environment social impact study. And we have to ensure that biodiversity and all the elements of the environment are in check. The zones are carbon neutral. And we percolate that down to the companies that operate within the zone. Now, by doing that, the companies, in fact, unlock value for themselves. They get access to growth capital and green funding, which has now become the order of the day. So that's how they benefit. So this is more on the environment side. On the social side, our approach is predominantly to unlock value for the communities in the countries that we operate in. Mind you, these are countries that have never seen industrialization. We have a lot of joblessness. So we ensure that the local community, in terms of the number of jobs that we build and create, upwards of about 50,000 to over 100,000. So that's one part of the social journey. The second part is to also enable unlocking value to the farmers who are providing and generating natural resources by eliminating the third party and the middlemen, by giving them the real benefits. And with that, we have a framework of traceability. With traceability comes in certifications from global businesses and companies, right from the national regulator that certifies your traceability. It gives you a social footprint mapping. We ensure that there is no child labor, and it certifies you for the global market. So for every container that gets shipped out of that market that has a traceability certification, you get a $30 premium as compared to a non-traceable commodity. So such certifications like the rainforest certification for agri-commodities, we have something called CMI, Cotton Made in Africa, as a certification. These give value benefits for the investors and companies who are in the zone. So it's a holistic ESG framework that we follow, and not just for our zone alone.
Justus, talk to me as well about how what we consider a special economic zone to be has changed, because I think there's an assumption that it's about manufacturing, it's about distribution or manufacturing, that it's industry. Increasingly, business is digital. Can that model adapt to digital organizations within a free zone setting?
Yeah, the answer to that question would have been different 5 years ago. The answer is different today, because looking at how economies are growing, and then how we need to follow the trajectories of growth. And if I was to borrow, for example, what is happening in a majority of the African countries, where the key drivers of economic development, the GDP, it's no longer manufacturing. If I take Kenya as an example, for the last 10 years, the service sector has contributed to more than 55% of the GDP growth in the country. And therefore, the challenge has been, should we continue to focus on manufacturing as the key sector in the special economic zone development? And the law has actually been changed, not just in Kenya, but in a number of African countries, to therefore incorporate other sectors as key drivers for attracting foreign direct investment into this region. I come from a zone that is predominantly a services-only special economic zone. And we have focused on that because that is where the future is headed. But in order, for example, to take care of the traditional manufacturing sector, I have RAKEZ here who are with me on the panel because they are experts on the manufacturing side. So we've told them, guys, this is not our area. And because we realize as a country, this is not our strength. So we call RAKEZ, we partner in developing what is going to be the first operational special economic zone focused on manufacturing by the coastal city of Kenya. And that basically is to say, yes, we are okay, we will continue with what has traditionally been known, but also we want to drive ourselves towards what works for the rest of the economy. We're talking about financial institutions. We are talking about the ICT sector. We're talking about the broader digital technology in general. We are talking about corporate headquarters. Many companies wanting to establish their corporate headquarters and shared services in an environment that is as secure as it would have been for manufacturing. In my zone, for example, we have attracted the largest BPO in the world, which has come to Nairobi because it's a special economic zone environment. And we are happy that we are continuing to understand the broader direction of economic development so that we are not left behind while getting stuck in the older ways of doing things.
Yeah, and Mohamed, that's the point, isn't it? It's about that shift towards being inclusive to all sorts of different industries, and increasingly digital is a part of that.
Yeah, so to give the answer, I would take you some numbers. Ras Al Khaimah Economic Zone in 2021, we open around 2,700 plus companies. 2022, we open around 4,400 companies. 2023 open, we have 7,382. In 2024, in the first half, we open around 6,000 companies. That means every month, almost 1,000 companies, and every day, 50 companies. And this is only possible because of the digital transformation within the economic zone. And I will give a little insight about the organization, that we have not added the resources in terms of manpower in other departments except the customer services. So, all your approvals, one-stop solution where you can take all the environmental approval, your taxation, value addition, everything, you can do the OSS services. So the digital transformation is a key for special economic zones to unlock the better and a bigger value.
Nikhil, I'm interested as well that there's a lot of economic zones, with organizations that are sort of mature now. These zones have been in place for a good number of years. How do you keep up that energy and that excitement about what these zones can offer when they've been around for so long?
Right. So I think, again, just to set context, I'd just like to add on the digital side. From what we've observed is many companies, and I think Mohamed has already said about 6,000, 10,000 companies. Most of them look at adopting a virtual office. Right? It's about getting an address and enabling trade. Right? So the whole digital transformation is already happening, and it's driving more economic value for the country and in that particular location for also the investor who's coming in. So that's on the digital side. And I think that is a key value benefit now that investors and companies are unlocking in all parts of the world. So it's not necessary that you have to come in just to do manufacturing. You can enable your entire supply chain and your trade through just being present and doing that minimal investment. That's on the digital side. On the efforts and the benefits side, I think at least, and I can give you again context of Africa, our approach is unlocking value chains that are available for the longest time. And we are trying to rechristen the entire supply chain of natural resources that Africa has to offer in the form of critical minerals, natural agricultural resources, and the entire order that is predominantly being shipped in natural form to Asia, getting transformed and getting shipped back to the world, right? So we are encroaching and bringing value at source, where we are trying to get people to manufacture at source and unlock the benefit. So I think with every year going by, we've seen investors who have now ventured into different models and different industry sectors, which is not core to them because they find opportunity and value there.
Yeah, that's the interesting point, is it how you keep up that energy and how you keep up those opportunities. And Anders, maybe a final thought from you in so much as how the global network of these zones works, because there might be, I guess, an inclination to sort of look after what's there within the walls of that zone, but actually this is about harnessing that ability to interconnect all these zones as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and I think what we see is exactly on the digitalization. Now everything is online. We could see that during COVID as well. All our services in Jebel Ali, for example, is online. But also when you look at our global network as DP World, where we're operating zones across the world as well, and now we've been really focusing on how we can connect them together with services, with logistics services. For example, we have a zone in Berbera in Somaliland where we have helped some of our customers to enter a new market in there, providing them with end-to-end services as well. So it's really how we can use those assets to open up new markets for our investors and customers. And we're doing the same in Senegal, in Africa. We're investing in India as well, where we have 2 different special economic zones in India as well. So it's really how we can use those assets and our expertise and experience in developing those parks efficiently to help our investors to enter those markets more efficiently.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been a rapid run through some of the issues there, but as always, the same thing applies. Please do chat to anyone outside who you may want to learn more from. So Justus, to Mohamed, to Nikhil, and to Anders, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us. Thank you.